And this is Kathy Neifeld, one of the 4 partners at Agency One, together with Ed Lesher, Dennis Bartos, and Gonzalo Garcia. I am honored to welcome you to the second to last session of the 2020 Agency One Annual, and we hope for this year only, Virtual Advisor Conference. Thank you for joining us. For those of you who have joined us over the past 3 weeks, we hope you found value from the speakers and content that was shared. Throughout the month of October, Agency One has hosted over 20 one-hour sessions on a variety of topics, including practice management, tax policy, the economy, estate planning with high net worth clients, sales opportunities, some that are general and others that highlight a specific product, charitable planning opportunities, how you can become a shareholder in an agent-owned reinsurance company, opportunities for wealth managers that are looking for a fee-based alternative to the more traditional life insurance sales process, and much, much more. We have featured nationally recognized speakers, including estate planning attorneys Ed Wren from Withers Bergman and David York from York, Howell & Guyman, New York Times bestselling authors and inspirational speakers Ben Nemtin, Tim Arnold from StoryBrand, and Kim Lear from Inlay Insights, economic and legislative updates, product specialists, sales ideas, an underwriting update featuring our very own Dennis Bartos and Jessica Karakoff, in addition to Chief Underwriter from Lincoln Financial Group, Jordan Carrera, and Nicole Myers from Swiss Re, and our very own Gonzalo Garcia, just to name a few. We only have 2 sessions left, today and tomorrow at 12 noon. Today we are featuring the finalists of our idea sharing contest, and tomorrow our final session features the CEO of an estate financial planning and wealth advisory firm who has worked with some of the nation's most successful families. He is going to discuss new planning opportunities available in this changing political and legislative landscape. We hope you will join us tomorrow for the final session as well. All of the sessions that have taken place so far have been recorded and can be accessed by you through the attendee hub. Hopefully, many of you that are joining us today have participated in this conference over the last 3 weeks. So I'm going to abbreviate the history of Agency One and how we got to where we are today. For those of you that have heard this before, please indulge me. We have many new advisors joining us as idea sharing has generated a significant amount of interest. The principals of Agency One have been working together for more than 30 years, always in the life insurance brokerage space. We love what we do, and we love working with the advisors that are part of our Agency One 100 group. One of the tenets or basic value propositions that is central to our Agency One offering is providing educational content, networking opportunities, and idea sharing with our advisors. We hope we are succeeding in providing this to you in this format. For those of you who have attended our conferences in the past, thank you for being with us today. For those of you who do not know us, we hope that the sessions that have taken place over the past month, along with the sessions today and tomorrow, will give you some takeaways that will help you grow personally and professionally, and that it will expose you to the culture, capabilities, professionalism, and friendship that exists within the Agency One organization and family. Once again, this entire meeting is being hosted through an attendee hub where you have access to the entire agenda, live streams, and all of the sessions that have been recorded for you to review. Now, a few housekeeping items. All of the attendees are on mute. Please submit your questions through the chat function, as we will address questions at the end of each idea sharing presentation. The session is being recorded, and the link to the recording will be made available after the session. And also, please do not forget to complete the session survey after this session, because that is where you are going to vote for your top idea, and we're going to tally them at the end. So now we're going to begin this idea sharing contest. When we began promoting this over a month ago, We envisioned that we would have 4 finalists and that there would be 3 winners. The judges were so passionate about the presentations that were submitted that they could not narrow it down to just 4 finalists. So we are going to provide you with 5 really good ideas. Here are the rules. Each finalist will have 10 minutes to present their idea. If you have any questions as it relates to the presentation, please type them into the chat function and Gonzalo will moderate the questions and answers. After each presenter, and once the questions are concluded, I will introduce the next presenter. You will then have, once it's over, you'll have the opportunity to vote on what you believe is the best idea in the survey. So again, we're going to announce the winners tomorrow at 12 noon. And with that, I am going to turn this over to the first presenter, Bobby Trottenberg. But I'd like to first tell you a little bit about Bobby. Bobby began his career in the financial services industry in 1983 and has been affiliated with Lincoln National, State Mutual, and The Guardian. In 1992, he established Arbor Associates to offer a range of products from a wide variety of carriers. The company has evolved into Arbor Group and provides insurance services to thousands of clients nationwide. Bobby has earned advanced degrees from the American College and is a life member of the MDRT. He is a board member of the Jewish Community Center and the International Forum, or the Forum 400, it is now referred to. He's a graduate of GW University in Washington, D.C. He's got a phenomenal dog by the name of Rosalita, because Bobby's a huge Bruce Springsteen fan, and he enjoys spending time at the Jersey Shore and is passionate about the Philadelphia Eagles. With that, Bobby, I'm going to ask you to take it away.
Well, thank you so much. And first of all, I want to thank everybody at Agency One. Your team has done an amazing job. And if we were all here in an audience, I would ask you all to stand, and I think we would all give you a standing ovation. It's been amazing what you have done, not just putting this together, but keeping this culture together in these crazy times. So thank you. I think somebody is ready for my first slide. Okay, my presentation today is how do you ask for referrals? And go to the next slide. In our industry, we only do 3 things. We find them, we sell them, and we service them. There is nothing else I think we could all agree on that we do. And what I think is the most important thing, obviously, is the first one. Next slide, please. In our business, we make a lot of money when we sell a life insurance policy. And the reason why we get paid a lot of money is it's hard. These insurance companies pay us a lot because if they didn't need us, they wouldn't have to pay us. And the other 99% of the people that you were in the business with would still be there. So it's very, very important that we get in front of the right people because they want to pay us to get in front of that right person. Next one, please. Next slide. So how do you find that special person? Next slide. Okay. I want you to take your best client and I want you to say, give me your best 5 clients and say, I want you to call that particular client and say, I need your help. And the reason why you want to try to do this with just 5 is very easily manageable. You all know who your top 5 clients are. So I want you to write your 5 names right now down. And after the session, you'll pick up the phone and you will call them. I'm going to give you a script. Next slide, please. When you call your top 5 clients, I want you to say, I need your help. Everybody wants to help everybody, especially today. Agency One calls us up constantly and they say, what else can we do for you? Again, they want to help. Your clients want to help, they just don't know how to help. Next slide, please. What you want to say to the client is, I need your help and I want to get together face to face. You do not want to do this over the phone. Your client's going to say, what's this about? You have to stop the conversation at that time. All I want you to say is, I need your advice. You're somebody I care about, and you're like somebody that I admire, can we get together face to face? Let's pick a day and a time. Next slide. You got to shut up at this point. As insurance producers, we have a tendency to constantly talk. You need to be quiet, and you want to let them think for 2 or 3 days. What is this about? Next slide. Your client, when he hangs up, is saying, okay, Trottenberg's either getting divorced, he's got a health issue, or the favorite one, he might be asking me for money, or he's leaving the business, he's retiring. You want that prospect to think for the next 2-3 days, what could this possibly be? Why is this guy wanting to get together with me face to face as opposed to on the phone call? Next slide. When you get together with him, you say, Blair, you're probably wondering why I need your help. And Blair's going to say, I've been thinking for the past 2-3 days, what could you possibly want to talk to me about? I've made a decision in my career, and you're somebody that I look up to. I've made a decision that I don't want to expand my business and pick another 100 clients. I could easily sell a term insurance policy to the guy up the street. That's not what I want. I want another Blair. I want one more Blair that I could spend the same amount of time I'm spending with you. That person knows right off the top of his head that he or she has that one person. The other thing is that person is going to be so relieved psychologically that you're not asking him for money, you're not going out of the business, you don't have a health issue, and you're not getting divorced. So the fact that you're setting him up just to ask for that one name, it's very easy for him to do. Next slide, please. I want to give you another technique that we've used for years. This is called feed the name. If you have a particular industry that you favor, for us, we have a lot of clients in the printing business. When you sit down with a client to do a review, what we have done in the past is we've given them a list of 5 of their competitors. Everybody knows who their competition is in the area. And I typically say to my particular client, it could be Blair, and I would say, Blair, been doing business with you for a lot of years. I decided to do either a mailer or an internet search, and 5 of your competitors came back and they want to have a conversation with me. You want to hand the list to your client, and you don't want to say to your client, who on this list should I call? You want to say, who on this list should I not call? He or she's going to go through that 5 names, and they're going to say, don't call this person, don't call this person. These 3 people are fine. And then you want to act like Columbo as you're leaving and say, oh, by the way, Blair, do you mind if I say that we do business? It is a wonderful, easy way to pick up the phone to call that new particular person and say, I do business in your industry. I do business with Blair. Let's get together. Next slide. This is a system that we have used for the past 10 years, and it's interesting. I believe that you need to plant mines, and every day when you come to work, you want one to blow up, meaning you want somebody to call you and say, I want your services. So how do you do that? This is a technique that we were taught about 10, 11 years ago. And we give clients who give us nice business a baseball bat. You can go online, Louisville Slugger, you can do this, and you personalize their name. So for example, you could say Blair Jacobson. Welcome, Arbor Group welcomes Blair Jacobson to the team. Now it comes in an incredible box with a ribbon. They open the box and they see this bat with their name. It's an actual baseball bat. They're never taking the bat home, unless maybe if you're Kim and her family are baseball junkies. Everybody's going to take that bat and they're going to look at it and they're going to keep it in their office. And they're going to take that bat and they're going to put it against the wall, and it's just going to be there. And every day that person comes into that office, psychologically, subliminally, your name is in that office. I cannot tell you the amount of times that people have taken those bats and said, oh, I was just thinking of you. That bat will sit there each and every day of your best clients. And every day for a split second, that person will be thinking of you. Next. We're big, no, meaning the next part, that's okay. We're big sports fans. And one of the things that we do is we find out what their favorite sports team is. And you can go online and you can get printed up the actual stadium where it can say, welcome Blair Jacobson, or the Pittsburgh Steelers welcomes Blair Jacobson. We get that printed and we put a nice frame onto it. We send it in a beautiful envelope to the office to Blair. Again, Blair's not taking a picture of him in a stadium to his home. What's Blair going to do with that? Blair's going to keep that picture in his office. Again, we've planted this seed. So now all of a sudden, every time Blair comes in there for a split second, he's thinking of you. These techniques really, really do work. And I would encourage you to try them. It's something different. You can give a gift, you can give flowers, you can give food, but eventually they get thrown away. A bat, a picture of their favorite team really stays and it works. So try some of these ideas out, and I hope it could be as beneficial to you as it is for me. Thank you.
Bobby, that was great. And thank you for sharing that. So I have a couple questions. I don't see anything in the chat box, but you've been doing this a while. And you know, it's about creating that ever presence in the person's life, which may be in their office and wherever they may be today. But how often, you know, the more successful you are, the more you forget to do the core things that you're talking about. How often do you still do this regularly today, and how's it working for you?
So we do three things. Number one, I take a personalized 5x7 individual stamp. I handwrite a note to anybody that's purchased a policy. I don't care if they spent $350 with us. They get an individual letter from me thanking them and welcoming them to the Arbor team. Everybody. That's number one. I never miss that. The second thing is we do the baseball bats constantly, as well as the other pictures. What I try to do is I try to find what's important to that particular client. And that takes time. And as you get to know somebody, it's very, very important. There are certain clients that are into wine. I will find out what their favorite type of wine is, and we will personalize something like that. But I was taught years ago, and listen, there are no original ideas, and that's what's so great about our business.
Yeah,
is everybody takes from everybody else. But I found that years ago, if you could plant a seed in somebody's office, I will tell you at least once every 6 to 8 weeks, somebody calls us up and says, I was thinking of you. They were thinking of us because they walked by and they saw a bat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So not all ladies like Kim, and Kim asked this question, are really into baseball. What do you do for your female clients?
Well, the female clients, what we typically try to do is find out what's important to them. Some clients love magazines. So we typically will do something like a magazine where they can get a copy of it automatically every year. And we will renew that for them even in the second and the third year.
Very cool. And then do you have a dollar limit, and is there a compliance dollar limit? Do you have a broker-dealer compliance issues?
Well, the interesting thing about the baseball bats and how we got started, baseball bats are about $75, 75 to 80. And by the way, it's interesting. You don't even have to talk to anybody. You literally go on to LouisvilleSlugger.com and you can do it that way. And then obviously the pictures could be about $25 or $35. All you're doing is getting an actual picture and you're putting it in a frame. It's not spending hundreds of dollars. We spend a lot more on the bats than anything else.
And somebody asked, well, how big are the pictures? Is it
the pictures are about the size of your laptop computer. It's not that big.
Got it.
It's really
Kathy, how
more
are we
about,
doing? Go ahead.
It's more about doing it, and also where they could hang it up in their office somewhere.
Got it. Kathy, I think you posted a question. I don't know if we're running out of time out of respect for everybody else. Back to you. You can ask the question if you want.
Well, I'm going to ask the question because it was my question. So, Bobby, I like what you've said in terms of asking the clients for the referrals. So they give you the people to reach out to. How do you handle that prospect when he says, I'm happy to take the call because it came from my good friend, but I'm already working with an advisor?
Okay, what we typically would do is say to that particular person, I don't want you to break your relationship with that advisor, just as I would hope somebody wouldn't break the relationship with us. Can I ask you a favor? And they're going to say, what's the favor? Can I put you on we have a drip campaign. Would that be acceptable to you? And it works. This way, we're not invasive. We're not trying to break the relationship. And we just wait for the other guy to screw up.
Fair enough. Okay. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you for the questions. We're now going to move on to our next finalist that I am going to introduce. Please remember, if you've got any questions, type them into the chat box, and we will address the questions for the next finalist after her presentation. So I am now it's my pleasure to introduce Kim Nadovitz. Kim is a member of the Individual Solutions team at Tribridge Partners. She has over 25 years of industry experience, including several years working for insurance companies. For the last 2 decades, high net worth individuals and strategic advisors have asked Kim to work in partnership with them to develop customized insurance solutions to mitigate risk and create tax-favored benefits for executives and employers. Kim's work is centered in planning for the unexpected, utilizing insurance products that provide liquidity at disability or death, but with a special emphasis in estate planning and retiree healthcare. By asking the right questions to facilitate meaningful conversations, Kim assists advisors and clients in looking at the big picture instead of focusing on just one issue to create comprehensive solutions. Kim has been recognized by Bethesda Magazine, Washingtonian Magazine, and Northern Virginia Magazine by her peers as the go-to insurance advisor. Kim, the floor is yours for your fabulous idea.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Kathy. And I just want to go ahead and share my screen for my PowerPoint, which of course, hold on one second here. Okay. Well, I'm going to start talking while I find my PowerPoint presentation. So probably the last 20 years, I've done a lot of work with helping clients plan for long-term care. And a lot of clients have purchased traditional long-term care insurance, and through reviews and working with other advisors, we're now really revisiting a lot of the planning that we have done for those clients. A number of things can everybody see my screen? Using LTC opportunities, okay. So the title of my program is Using Long-Term Care to Find Life Insurance Opportunities. So clients who have bought traditional long-term care policies and have had them for a while have received on average a minimum of 1 rate increase, but I've seen clients who have received 2 and 3 premium increases over the years. For clients who had bought the 5% compound inflation rider, what they have found is their benefits have doubled. And with this 5% compound inflation rider, they are getting substantial premium increases. Based upon the current investment environment, the ability for carriers to maintain pricing while increasing benefits by 5% compound cannot be done so without premium increases. So a lot of policyholders are looking for solutions to lock in premiums. And this is not because the clients can't afford these premium increases. Most of these clients are high net worth clients, but they don't like the idea that they have a policy where the premium keeps increasing. In addition, many people have had some claim experience at this point in time with other family members, and they've worked with a home health care agency, and they have found that they really would prefer to use informal caregivers, people that they know, as an example, and the idea of the cash benefit. So for clients who are still insurable, redesigning their long-term care protection is really an option and leads to a lot of life insurance sales. Anytime an advisor calls me and says, will you review this client's existing long-term care policy because they're getting rate increases, I'm happy to do so, because I would say on average 3 out of 5 times I am able to help them reposition those policies and create better opportunities for them. So the first case study I want to talk about, Ed. Ed had purchased reimbursement contracts with 5% compound and unlimited benefits. So he bought an unlimited benefit period because the difference in the premium between 6 years and unlimited was really insignificant. He received another significant premium increase and wanted to discuss what his options were. Up until now, he had always accepted the premium increases, but at this point in time, he really wanted to see what could be done. He also told me that since he was turning 70, his retiree life insurance premiums were also doubling. So based upon the increasing long-term care and the increasing retiree premium, he really wanted to figure out, were there some better options available? So in contacting the carrier, the first thing we did was we learned we were able to discontinue the inflation increases, but keep the current benefit. By doing that, we were able to reduce the premium on the long-term care substantially. But we really wanted to make up for the benefits that we would lose through those continued premium increases. So as we were talking about what his needs were and the fact that he had term insurance that would keep increasing, we decided that if he bought a Prudential GUL policy with the bar rider plus a 15-year term, we would meet his needs for both long-term care benefits and survivor income for his wife. By purchasing the bar rider, which is a cash benefit rider on Prudential's plan, we were able to guarantee that premiums would not increase, that he would have a cash benefit, and he could keep his John Hancock policy and receive benefits from both simultaneously. The premium for that case turned out to be $33,000 a year for the GUL with the bar rider, and then another $11,000 for the 15-year term. And Ed was very, very happy to have now a long-term care policy benefit available where he would have a fixed premium, in light of the fact that we knew we were probably going to get some additional benefits for the increases with John Hancock. Another client that we worked with recently, hold on, let me go back here. Hold on. Alex and Monica. So Alex and Monica had purchased long-term care policies in their late 30s. And this was part of an executive carve-out, and there were several other people who purchased policies as well. Again, the 5% compound inflation rider and the unlimited benefit period. They also were getting a premium increase. The premium increase was about 75%. So their investment advisor, upon reviewing this premium increase, told them they no longer needed life insurance and long-term care, and suggested that they take an existing life insurance policy that had cash value, and do a 1035 into a life insurance policy with a long-term care rider. Well, in doing so, that would have decreased their current long-term care benefits, and they wouldn't have had any future benefit increases. The client did not feel comfortable extinguishing all insurance and asked for a second opinion. So what we determined is that for the wife who had a variable life policy, the kids had grown, they no longer needed death benefit on her, and that we could use the life insurance to purchase, to do a 1035 exchange to purchase a Care Matters policy with about $185,000. For the husband, what we determined is that he still wanted some death benefit, but he didn't need as much death benefit as he currently had based upon having had a liquidity event. So we're actually taking his policy and we're doing a 1035 in two pieces. We're going to take $150,000 and put it in Care Matters, and we're going to take the remaining $337,000 that will go into a paid up policy for him. So we're really able to give him the permanent life insurance without having to worry about future funding, and the same thing with the long-term care. We're eliminating the inflation rider on the current long-term care plan and keeping the unlimited benefit period for now, knowing that if we did get future benefit increases in terms of premiums, we could look at this point in time at maybe taking the unlimited benefit period down to 6 years as an example, since they hadn't elected the 10 pay. So the nice thing about this case as well is that now we are getting calls from the other couples who are also part of this carve out who want to talk about doing the exact same thing from here. My contact information, I could go on for hours about how many opportunities there are to sell life insurance to people who have existing traditional long-term care plans, but I am out of time.
Kim, thank you for that. I will vouch for the fact that because I talk to Kim probably 5 times a week. You are as busy and keeping us as busy as you've ever been. I mean, you've been doing long-term care for years and years, and you're a known expert in that field. And you've taken all of that knowledge in terms of restructuring the long-term care portfolios that people have. Maybe you sold it to them, or maybe somebody else did, but you're creating a ton of life activity. I don't see any questions right now, but I would encourage people to ask some questions. Kim, just a couple things. You talked a little bit about, you mentioned several times cash benefit rider. Can you just spend a minute on why is it that it's so important to you specifically, because you've really become an expert advisor in long-term care, and that's kind of your niche, but why cash benefit riders are so important to you as opposed to some of the other options that are out there in the market?
That's a great question. So most people want to stay at home, and they want to have the ability, quite frankly, to find the right caregiver for them. And with the number of people aging and the demand for home care, home health care agencies are having difficulty hiring enough people.
Yep.
So my clients who are on claim are finding that they're using agency plus informal caregivers. And for that reason, I want my clients to have the largest eligible population, at the time of claim. And then when you think about long-term care services, while licensing is nice to have, it's not necessarily mandatory, because people who don't have long-term care insurance, their friends and family are the ones who are taking care of them. So we know that there isn't necessarily a tremendous amount of skill involved for most people. So, but finding the right fit for your family, I think, is what's most important. And so I just believe that having an insurance company that's going to send you a check once a month so that you can find the right caregiver, hire an aging life professional or a care manager to really deal with all of the issues of aging at home, really gives the client the ability to make decisions in real time. And we saw that in COVID. I had some clients who were on claim. They lived in New York City as an example, and they really didn't want somebody who had to take, a bus and a train to get to their house. And, they had somebody in their building that could have provided care, but wasn't eligible for reimbursement under their contract.
Thank you, Kim. Yeah, I was going to mention the COVID thing because I know you've had some experiences there. We do have a couple quick questions, so let's hit them. Are you finding the same opportunities with clients that only had a 3% compound inflation rather than a 5%?
Yes and no. So clients who have a 3% compound inflation, those clients have not yet got premium increases. However, some of those clients are still coming back when we're doing reviews and saying, I just went through this experience with my mother or my father. Does my policy work this way? And often when they hear no, you have to use a home healthcare agency, they often will say, oh, I don't think that's a great idea. What are the other options?
Right. That's great. And then this guy's more personal about you. Do you only represent one LTC company or an assortment of companies? And then the follow-up question is, in the beginning, you mentioned traditional LTCI. Do you also sell life-based LTCI policies like MoneyGuard and One America?
So I'm independent. And again, depending upon what state the client resides in, I'm looking at the whatever is available in that state. I will say that I probably prefer the hybrid policies with a cash benefit, but we've also done a number of GUL policies that have long-term care protection as well, where if somebody has wanted more death benefit. So it's a question of whether we want parity between the death benefit and the long-term care, or do we really want as much long-term care as we can get, and the death benefit is really incidental, and it's the way to get the control and the fixed premium.
Got it. Thank you. That's all the questions I've got, Kathy. Back to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Kim. I also want to remind everyone that Kim was kind enough to participate in a session that we hosted last week along with Sean Britt, and it was titled Planning the Pandemic and Linked Benefits. And if you'd like to hear more about that, please access that session through your attendee hub. It has been recorded for you. So we're now going to move on to our next finalist, who is David Appel. David is a managing partner at Appel Insurance Advisors. He is a 1992 graduate of the Whitman School of Management at Syracuse University and concentrates his practice with a consultative, service-oriented approach to personal and business insurance planning. His primary focus is in generation-to-generation wealth transfer goals, as well as helping clients protect their families and businesses from the financial pitfalls of death, disability, and the drain of long-term care expenses. That's the 3 deadly Ds, David. Wow. David has maintained a successful life insurance focused practice for over 28 years. He was highlighted in NAIFA's national publication, Advisor Today, in July of 2004 in an article entitled 4 Under 40.
That was a long time ago.
I know it was, but you still got it. Portraying 4 top advisors and community leaders in the United States under the age of 40. He resides in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts with his 4 children, Alexandra, Jared, Georgia, and Caroline. David, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Gonzalo, and everybody at Agency One, and thank you all for listening in. My title of my talk is just basically turning a remote environment into new levels of productivity. Come March 2020, we all had a choice, no choice to go remote. And faced with these type of challenges, what do? These are unprecedented times, but you either react and adapt or you fold. Doing nothing, as we all know, can equal trouble and problems. For those of you who don't know me that well, I live 6 miles outside of Boston. So my business world is pretty much urban Boston, which went as quiet as New York City did within a matter of a day or two come March 15th. I had no different fears than you guys have. My fiance, Kira, and I have 8 children between the two of us. One was being sent home early from college, and the other 7 all of a sudden were on remote learning, or at least for a few weeks they were home, and then they went on remote learning. My office building was closing, and I said this was going to get interesting. There were automatic things that had given me success to this point, no different than I'm sure most of you on this phone call. We were hosting internal and external meetings in the office. I was attending and hosting networking and charity events and dinners. I was well known in the Boston area. I was an expert networker in and outside of Boston, to immediately basically doing nothing. I knew my staff was going to be okay with the remote piece, since we were already doing that a few days a week. I had the proper equipment and tools at their houses, the office phones, all that kind of stuff. So I wasn't worried about that. But I don't know, like not all of you, but I'm 100% fee-based and commission-based insurance advisor, focused on advanced planning and the basic needs of clients' life insurance. But I knew hardship was going to get set in, because what was going to happen, and I was really concerned with Jessica and Dennis and Gonzalo, like who's going to take a life insurance exam in the middle of a pandemic? So I wasn't sure what was going to happen, but I realized I needed to focus on my core, on my clients and my advisors, identify the problems that they were feeling and having, and try to figure out a way to help them solve them. And in our brief time today, I'm just going to cover a couple of things and take us a little beyond the what and take us to the how. But one of the things we did was COVID marketing emails, I called it. We launched a few weeks into the pandemic. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk briefly about roadshows. The COVID marketing emails were basically started off with 14 weekly emails after COVID started. These were informal videos shot on my laptop, transferred over to a video, brought up to YouTube, and then sharing the link with my advisors and clients. I needed to stay relevant. I needed people to remember who I was and what I do and how we can help them. I wanted to be present for them. I wanted them to feel that they had someone that they could phone, that they could call. This has been so successful that my marketing strategy going forward is going to incorporate these videos. I want to share some of these videos, 2 of these videos, just briefly with you, and just for a minute or 2 on each one, just to give you an idea of what these look like. Can you all see this? Hopefully, Gonzalo or somebody tell me that this is up.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm back here for another update, out and check in with my friends, colleagues, friends of the firm, clients. We're in week 9 of quarantine now. I got such a tremendous response from last week's video that I wanted to follow up right away with it, give some of the answers to the questions that I asked, and check in with everybody again. Last week at the end of the video.
Could you guys see that?
We saw it briefly, and then it went. It ended with a check-in, and then the screen went blank.
Okay, all right.
But we heard even though the screen went blank, we heard your continued
okay, so
message.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I want to make sure you hear.
Yeah.
I will go back to the next one. But that was, the initial. There was some questions that I asked my clients in that video. And that video was, but you kind of got the idea of what it looked like. You saw the video for a second, right? You saw that up there, and I'll bring it up again.
Yep.
The questions were, what are you and your family going to do if this pandemic, when and if this pandemic breaks? What are you missing right now? It was a rhetorical question at the end of a 3-minute video, and then asking them what are they going to do differently, and then asking if they were going to go out or what they were going to do. To that one video, I got 30 emails from clients and from some advisors all over the map telling me how they should have traveled more before. They're going to take their family to Italy as soon as they can. They're missing their kids' soccer games. One of my clients was missing his daddy-daughter dinners out. I mean, I just got email after email, which led to cases, which a lot of you saw. Let me go back and we'll share my week. This is a week 30 video, which will we will do that now.
Wow, it's the first week in October, and we are week 30 post-COVID, striking us mid-March 2020. I am not sure where the time has gone. These videos have always been great to update my professional advisors and my clients that we work with on a daily basis. And I just wanted to give a quick update of what's going on personally, a little bit nationally, business-wise, and kind of go from there. On the personal side, we still have 2 kids in college, thank God, one in Vermont, one in North Carolina. North Carolina is not doing quite as well as the state of Vermont is doing in regards to cases and keeping their students safe. But so far, so good in regards to everybody staying in school and remaining there. As far as the other kids go, everybody's remote right now. The middle schools and high schools in Newton are remote. The elementary school is starting hybrid this week, so 2 days a week, and there's still no plan yet whether the middle schools or high schools will go back. I'm back in the office around 70% of the time, which has been great, but my building's still quiet. There's very, very few people in my office building in Newton at this point in time. Boy, on the national side, what a week we saw. That debate last week between President Trump and Vice President Biden was a train wreck. I feel like we hit a new low in our country, and it just couldn't have got any worse. And the hate that's on the internet for both sides is just terrible. I just feel like we need to hug everybody that we love and kind of go from there.
Hopefully you got a little bit of a feeling of how that kind of worked. And again, this was not professionally shot. These were not, I kind of wrote out a few bullet points of what I wanted to say. And I just kind of rolled with it. And honestly, as I started going through all these, I just did one takes on these videos and got them out via email with YouTube links, private links on YouTube. You basically could set up a YouTube channel. You can decide whether videos are going to be public or private. And then the way I set them up was that you could only view these videos if you had a link to them. So that was huge. I have just a couple minutes. The only thing I wanted to say that I also transitioned based on the world that we were living in is one of the things that I had a lot of success is what I've called road shows, going into CPA firms, law firms, investment firms, sponsoring a breakfast or lunch, talking to the attorneys, the CPAs, the advisors on there, having invite a few other people to the firm and kind of give them a what's going on in the insurance marketplace today. I obviously wasn't going to be doing that either come March 2020. So I did Zoom road shows and I changed them. And what I realized with Zoom road shows, besides the fact that they were unbelievably efficient, I wasn't driving into Boston, I wasn't paying $50 a park, I wasn't sponsoring breakfasts or lunches. But then I was getting a lot more people on these videos. I was all of a sudden getting not only the senior partners and the people I'd been dealing with, but they were inviting their younger associates. So now all of a sudden at Northern Trust, I had 25 people on a Zoom call for 23 minutes, giving them what's going on in the insurance marketplace today, how they can still buy life insurance and kind of go on from there. So I just wanted to kind of give you an idea, like think outside the box, start getting yourself out there, be relevant, whether we're sitting in office and we can't go anywhere, I was sitting up in Maine, doing all this work. I was keeping Agency One pretty busy during April, May, and June, and it's continuing into the fall, and I hope it continues all the way through. But that's all I got for you right now.
David, that was awesome. I remember our conversation in March, and you were about to get pretty panicky, but you didn't panic. You jumped into action, and you kept it real personal. And I remember watching all your videos during March, April, and May and how you kept doing it. So you've been very religious about this. And I know how busy you've been because you've been keeping us extremely busy as well. And then obviously we're grateful for that. A couple quick questions. How did you integrate the insurance business into the videos? For example, like in the October one, you were talking about what's going on in the schools and so on and so forth. How did you bridge that?
I mean, I didn't want to take a ton of time, and and I kept the videos pretty much to 3 minutes. But basically, what I would do is I would start off all the videos welcoming everybody, talking about some personal stuff, talking about stuff that was going on nationally. Like in that particular thing, I talked about the train wreck of the debate. Another video, I talked about President Trump getting COVID and Melania. I talked about, and then I transitioned, like in that particular one, I transitioned talking about tax law changes, the estate tax exemptions potentially going down, people doing business. I'm here to help. Please introduce me to your friends or family. And I closed it off by saying, you know, I'm here to help you. Let me know if I can help. Let me know what I can do. I mean, we've had so many clients increase their coverage over the last 6 months. I've never seen in 28 years in the life insurance business, people taking their life insurance as seriously as they are right now.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. And one thing I do want to say that I forgot I left out was that I did do 14 weekly emails. Once I saw the viewership starting to fade down a little bit, I transitioned them to monthly. So now I'm doing them once a month.
Got it.
And I'm back over like to 150 views or somewhere. I mean, again, it's not a crazy amount of views, but all it takes is a couple people to see it and make them jump into action.
Yeah, yeah. What is your distribution strategy for these videos? Approximately how many were sent? I think you just answered this. And to whom do you know what the open rate was and how was the response? So it looks like you were getting a fair amount early on. Yeah. You got a little fatigue from the people, you know, people eventually just kind of, it tapers off. But when you went to monthly, did you get back? Did you get a little spike back?
Yeah.
And
so, yeah, I mean, the first couple were a little bit lower than I thought they were going to be. Then they kind of spiked up over 200 and then they started coming down. And I think when I got down to like 125, I decided to transition it to monthly. And basically the distribution is through my database. I have 3 distribution lists. I have home email addresses, work email addresses, and my advisor email addresses. So I basically did 3 blasts. I'm terrible. Lisa Mitchell is so much better at this stuff than I am. With my, you know, but I do it via MailChimp, and the open rates were big. I would be, you know, not telling the truth if I knew exactly what the rates were, but I was actually shocked. I remember sending a couple of text pictures to Gonzalo going, I can't believe how many people open this email. You know, but they were high, but I just don't remember the exact percentage.
Yeah. And I just want to call out to Lisa Mitchell again, who's obviously been working tirelessly on this meeting. But Lisa did help David a fair amount, and we're also happy to help any of you who might embark on a strategy like this. So just let us know what we can do to help you. David, thank you. That was awesome. Kathy, back to you.
Thank you, Gonzalo, and thank you, David. Our next finalist is Steve Thaler. Steve is a producer and client advocate for Willis Towers Watson. In this role, he assists businesses and individuals in designing and obtaining insurance plans to meet their current and future financial planning needs. In his practice, Steve helps his clients with a variety of needs associated with financial and insurance planning, employee benefits, and non-qualified plans. Steve is particularly well-versed in designing key person and or buy-sell coverage under Internal Revenue Section 101J and trust-owned life insurance for estate planning purposes for his high net worth clients. Steve is a past president of the Maryland Health Underwriters and a past president of the Baltimore Estate Planning Council, a nationally recognized leadership award of Excellence Council. He is a current member of the Forum 400, FinSECA, formerly AALU, NAFA, NAHU, and the Society of Financial Professionals. Steve, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kathy. And I want to thank Agency One. It's been a fabulous meeting. And in spite of me having some technological challenges, and this morning I seem to have a little bit of laryngitis, I will do the best I can in making sure that the time is well spent. So the title of my presentation this morning is Key Person Life Insurance Rewrite. And it's a very simple one. And in fact, I go back to the days of Ben Feldman, Sid Friedman. And one of the things that I remember about them and many other really great insurance people was they tried to have simple concepts. And so this concept really I've been utilizing to a great deal of success. It's essentially utilizing the Internal Revenue Code 101J, which relates to corporate-owned life insurance. And I will tell you that invariably, even today in 2020, I frequently will go into an organization that has key person life insurance already in force, and I ask basic questions and invariably find that at least one or a second element that allows for this 101J has not been met. So I'd like for today to give you just two examples. And I should tell you that these have generated not only hundreds of thousands of dollars of commission, but seven-figure amounts. So the first situation is in 2015, I went into an organization I was referred into by the attorney. They had a New York Life agent who was retiring. And it turns out that this is an organization that started in 1999 with four principals. And by 2015, they were approaching 1,000 employees. They each had $25 million of 10-year term that had been taken out in 2010. So there were still 5 more years left. But these were all people who were in their late 40s, early 50s. And one of the things that didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense was, why was it a 10-year term? Was it because they couldn't afford it? The answer was no. They really couldn't tell you why. So they were interviewing a number of potential brokers to replace their retired New York Life agent. And apparently I was last. And I came in, and the four were around a table, and they were kind of a tough audience. And so I started out by just asking what are some of the things that were of interest to them. And they said, well, they had this life insurance, but one of the problems is that 3 of the 4 had health problems. And as they started to describe their health problems, at least 2 of them were totally uninsurable because of their existing health. I then asked, had they qualified their life insurance? Had they each signed a form that acknowledged that their company was going to be the owner of the insurance? And secondly, that even if they left the employee of their company, that the company could keep the insurance in force. And they weren't sure. The partner who was the CFO said he's pretty sure they signed it. Said, okay. And have you been filing the IRS Form 8925 on a regular basis with your corporate tax returns? And that's when I got a blank stare from all 4. And in fact, I get that stare a lot. The CFO literally got up, went out, apparently went to his computer, went to the Internal Revenue site, and he came back quite shaken. He then, in front of the other 3, called their accountant, who was with a national accounting firm, and asked if Form 8925 had been filed because they have corporate-owned life insurance. And the answer was no. Ultimately, what occurred was, because of the insurability issue, and because the existing New York Life agent was retiring, I was able to become the servicing agent. And there's an example of the Form 8925, which, by the way, will be available to everyone. I was able to become the servicing agent. And New York Life, at least at that time, had a whole life product that had, for at least the first 15 years, a guaranteed premium, and it was less than what the normal whole life premium would be. Suffice to say, we did conversions. We're able to have the policies put in force, and the $100 million that we were able to place now on a whole life basis generated over $500,000 of first year commission. And because they're whole life, there's still revenue being generated. Second, more recent situation, more local, again, a organization that I became involved with them through employee benefits when they had about 90 employees, and now they have about 700 plus. They had one location in Baltimore City. Now they have 8 throughout the United States and a couple of offices in other countries. And MDRT, top of the table producers, had put in force term policies, again, 10-year term, on people who were in their 40s and 50s and anticipating working into their 70s. And again, I sat down with the key people and asked the basic questions, and no one had any awareness of the 8925 form. They did know that they had all signed off on the requirement that it was going to be employer owned. And so, and Teresa, if you can bring up the white paper. There is a white paper that I bring with me when I first encounter people who have key person life insurance or are thinking about having key person life insurance. This is a white paper that goes back to 2011, but I still use it because it's still viable. And what I would point out is that, and Teresa, if you can go to the 4th and last page, what you will see is at the end, it asks, can employer-owned life insurance that's not in compliance be corrected? And generally, failure to meet the notice and consent requirements under IRC 101J will result in the death benefit, less any premiums paid, being subject to income tax. So in the first situation, the reason why that was a problem was those 4 were part of an S corporation, so the income tax would go to each of them individually. With the more recent situation, it was all corporate owned and it was a C corporation, but it was going to be a negative tax event that they did not want. And so we were forced to write brand new policies, which of course generated brand new commissions, but more to the fact, we then were able to put in place term plans that had far longer guarantees. And as a result of that, that led, not to take anything away from Kim's presentation, but that led to discussions of life insurance with a linked benefit. And we wound up putting in place for all of their employees a Transamerica Trans Elite that has a guaranteed standard issue up to 150,000 and as much as 500,000. And so that was several $100,000 more of revenue. And again, because it's on a whole life platform, there's ongoing revenue. So it's I see a question, Bob Larkin, is the white paper available? The answer is yes. And in fact, I also left with Agency 1 2 other items. One is from M Financial, the M Group, where they had come out with essentially a white paper that's essentially the same thing, and that's now up. And then the last piece that I've left is from John Hancock, where they go into things. And the only reason I've suggested that you look at this is because collectively they will give you a good understanding of this 101J. And as I said, invariably, local accountants are not familiar with it. And even national accounting firms many times are not familiar with it. So I just want you to be aware of how this all works. Let's see, in the New York Life case, I can't read all of that. I'll let Gonzalo read it in a little bit. But since we're already over the 1 o'clock hour, I will stop right now. I certainly am available to answer any questions. I'm not selling product. I'm selling an idea that I think is transferable and can be used by anyone.
Steve, thank you for that. I will tell you, you know, in talking to so many of you on a regular basis, I can't tell you how many times I ask the same question of the advisors that I'm working with, and you get this crazy blank stare. What is a Form 8925? And a lot of times 101J does get signed, because a lot of times if it's corporate owned, the insurance companies require it. But the compliance issue on reporting with tax returns is just grossly missed. So it provides a tremendous amount of opportunity. So thank you for sharing that, Steve. We do have a couple of questions. In the New York Life case, are the converted whole life policies still subject to income tax since the notice and consent requirement were not met?
No, and the answer is no, because when you did the conversion, they're brand new policies with different policy numbers. So that's how we were able to overcome the issue and create qualifying programs.
So just to clarify, a conversion qualifies as a change then for a newly issued policy with a new 101J completed, and then compliance with 8925 going forward is fine.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you. What do you say if they say yes, they have signed the 8925?
Well, then that leads into all of the other discussions right, regarding products, whether or not they have sufficient amounts of disability insurance. We go into everything. As I said, it's a lead-in.
Yeah, great. And then the last question, Steve, is the notice and consent form required to be filed with the IRS or the carrier? I presume that means the 101J form. And are there prescribed penalties for failure to file Form 8925?
So these days, as you said, Gonzalo, most insurance carriers, if they know it's going to be an employer-owned life insurance policy, will require it. However, what we found is that there are a lot of companies that do not have their own form. And so we take a form of one carrier, simply delete their name, and then utilize that. The requirement under the IRS 101J is simply that the employer have a notice that in the event of an audit, they can show proof that the key employee, and by the way, this has to be for key employees, and it came out of in the 1990s when companies were buying janitor insurance and using that, frankly, as an offset for increases in their health insurance. But as long as you have the existing employee sign an acknowledgement that they will be having a life insurance policy that they won't own, they have no entitlement to, and even if they leave, the employer can keep the policy in force, that satisfies that requirement. It's then that second element, which is making sure that with the annual tax return, the Form 8925 is filed, where so many companies miss.
Yeah. Well, Steve, great idea, very simple, as you said, but it's generated an awful lot of activity and revenue for your firm and for you. So thank you for sharing that. Kathy, back to you.
Thank you, Gonzalo, and thank you, Steve. We now have our next and final finalist, Frank Westerhoff. Frank has been a financial advisor for 15 years with more than 20 years of sales and marketing experience. He is a Northeastern University Engineering and Babson College MBA graduate, as well as a past CFP practitioner. Currently, he runs his physician's focused practice from the Boston area. Frank started his career at Guardian Life with club awards and MDRT level achievements. Today, Frank is going to be sharing a referral introduction approach he developed that became part of the standard training for all of the agents at one of the country's largest life insurance companies. With that, I am going to turn it over to Frank.
Hello, thank you all. Thank you very much. Appreciate being here. So in the end, we're all basically the same. We sort of start the same. We have to do some of the same basic things, right? We run our own business. We have to address all the issues that are focused in that business. And one of the key issues is how do we continue to meet the new people we need to meet on a regular basis to continue to maintain and grow our business. And what I want to share with you today is a technique that certainly I've stolen from others but refined a little bit on a really successful way to manage that process. Because, you know, in the end, we do all this work for our clients. We go above and beyond, and we don't necessarily always go above and beyond because that's what it's going to take to get the sale. We're going above and beyond because we really want our clients to like us. And why do we really want them to like us? We want them to like us, and if not love us, so that they're going to introduce us to the other people in their life. And, you know, you go through the process and everything's going well, and you get to that point where you say, hey, Joe, you know, I wonder if you know anyone that could use my services. And what happens? That great client, it's sort of a Jekyll and Hyde, they turn into something else. And the answer is, yeah, let me think about that. And how do we take that? We take that as we weren't successful in getting an introduction, but I think internally we take that as a rejection of us, of the work that we've done. So it's almost, you know, deflating to go through that process. And I would argue that it's not our clients, it's us. And that we need to find a way to do better at helping our clients help us. So I'm going to share my slides here. If I can figure out how to turn that on. There we go. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to ask for referrals when you can't meet people, because that's the situation that we're in right now. And what I would argue is that the referral process is really three areas. One, how to get people to agree to a referral process, to a referral focused meeting. How to get people to give you referrals to the people they know well, and then how to get those people to reach out and make the introduction for you. Right. So the first part of that is, how do you get people to answer when you call, right? How do you get people to agree to a call, get them to pick up the phone when you call, and then agree to a referral focused meeting? I'm really not into the process of sort of, you know, ambushing people. Hey, Joe, it's been 10 years since we were in college together. Let's get together for coffee, and then figure out how to turn that into a discussion about people they might know. Now, I've run this as a workshop a number of times, and this is some of the data. I like to collect data. I have an engineering background. This is data from one of those workshops. There were 22 participants. They contacted about 200 people, about 9 or so per person. Of the people that they contacted, 73% of them agreed to a call. So I don't know about you, but most people don't tell me that when they're reaching out to people for a phone call, that they get a 75% agreement to get a call. And then of that 75% or so, another 75% of those people agreed to a referral focused meeting. That's a really different strategy and structure when the people you're talking to are agreeing to a meeting where they know they're going to talk about referrals or people that they know. So the basic process for that is, and this is what I recommend, and I'm going to go pretty fast here. My email's there on every page. Send me an email now, whatever, but I'm going to go pretty fast. This is about a 2-hour workshop. So what I say to you is, text people that you know, that know you, that you have some sort of relationship, not a cold call. Text them and say, hey, David, I'm working on my Q4 marketing, and I could really use some coaching. Would you be willing to take a call with me? Now, for people that know you, that's a pretty straightforward request. They're either going to say, hey, I can't do it. They're going to say, sure, call me now. Or they're going to say, yeah, what time do you want to call? The importance about that is that you've sort of telegraphed that you want to talk about something. And then more importantly, you're asking them for coaching. As Bobby said before, people really think about, you know, being asked to help, and it makes them feel good. And we want to use that to help people help us. So by asking them for coaching, you're making them feel better about themselves because you're asking them for advice. And you're not hiding what you're going to do. So now that they've said, yeah, sure, call me at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, when you make that phone call at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, and we all know that whenever we call anybody now, they know who's calling, they're going to see your name, they're going to know why you're calling, and they're going to have a rough idea of what the agenda is. And they're going to pick up that phone call. Again, it's just a much more efficient way to get people to engage with you. Once you get on the phone, I use a particular script. And I'm going to say, hey, David, I found a whole bunch of people on LinkedIn that we're both connected to that I think might be a good set of people for me to meet. I'm going to try to reach out to them. But I was wondering if you might be willing to give me some coaching on any of those people about who you think would be a good fit based on what you know what I do. If there's anybody in that list I should stay the hell away from, please let me know. Again, this is a very straightforward request, right? It's not asking your prospect, your contact to do any heavy lifting. I found the people. I'm going to call them. I'm not looking for introductions. I'm not looking for referrals. All I'm looking for is some coaching and some advice about who to focus my time on and who to stay away from. And I'd say, would you be comfortable with that, David? And the vast majority of those people go, yeah, sure, that'll be fine. When do you want to do it? Can we do it now? Can we do it tomorrow? Whatever the answer is. These statistics here are the results of what people did within 24 hours of doing this workshop. In the workshop, they text all the people. So this is a rapid response, which means you can in fact impact the introductions that you have on your list to work on today. You can end up with results today, not next week, not next month, not after a campaign, today. So that's a really effective way to get people to agree to a meeting or to a call where you're going to talk about something that has to do with people that they might know. So that's step one. Step two is, how do you get people to give you introductions? And this is really trying to use some cognitive science, neurology type, methodologies to make it easier for your contacts to help you. The first thing you have to do is you have to keep their brain comfortable. You have to use the power of images. It really changes the way your brain thinks when you use images. And you have to do all the heavy lifting. So I want you to just close your eyes for a second and think about when someone came to you and asked you for an introduction. If you've ever worked at an agency of any kind of organization, you've certainly been approached by someone that's recruiting new agents. And when you see that person coming down the hall and you know they're going to ask you for introductions, how did that make you feel? I feel my stomach getting tense just saying that, right? We don't want to do that to our clients. So I'm going to show you a methodology that allows you to keep them comfortable. So what I do when I get to the meeting, and this can be done through a web meeting, it can be done in person. It doesn't work very well over the phone, but certainly any of those two methodologies work really well. This works with people who are contacts, people that know you and you've had a discussion with. It works with people who are customers, clients, who have a longer experience with you. And it works with people that are none of those. They're just friends or family that might know you as well. It really works in all those situations. So what I'm going to say is when we sit down or when we start off the meeting, I'm going to say, David, as I said on the phone, I found a bunch of people on LinkedIn that we're both connected to who I think might be a really good fit for my business. And I think you know some of these people. Would you be comfortable giving me some coaching about who I should try to meet and who I should try to stay away from? Would that be all right? Now, again, I'm asking for permission. I'm not asking them to do anything. I'm just saying, would you be comfortable with giving me some coaching? If they say, no, I'm not really comfortable with that, that's okay. This process of getting in front of people to have this discussion is so easy, just move on. Most people are going to say yes, right? It would be awkward to say no at that point. And they're going to feel empowered and they're going to feel better about themselves when they feel like they're giving you help. This is an inbred, lizard brain behavior that says if we do something to help somebody, that adds to our tribe and we have more resources if we're ever under stress. So people do this, it's a natural inclination. So I'm going to show you the tools that I use for this kind of discussion. So this is one of the tools I use. It's a web-based tool and allows me to use images when I'm having this discussion. So I'm going to say, Janelle, look, I found a bunch of fellows and residents at Boston at BI Medical Center who are in the anesthesiology department. And I think you know some of these people. And, would it be possible for you to give me some coaching about who I should try to meet, right? I'm going to reach out to them, but, I don't want to reach out to people you'd say make no sense. or people I should stay away from. Is that okay? Now, what's so important about this are the images. And I want you to think again about your own personal situation. Think about looking at a picture of somebody that you know, somebody that you have some kind of relationship with, and what happens to your thought process when you do that. The vast majority of us, when we look at a picture of somebody that we know, we're going to go to some experience that we had with them. We're going to go to some feeling we have about them. We like them, we don't like them. We had some great experience with them, we had some poor experience with them. That's so important, because what it does is it takes your contact from thinking about their bag of rocks, all the stuff that they have to worry about today, their next meeting, what they have to do today, all the stuff that's stressing them out. And it just switches them over immediately into emotional response, because they're looking at an image of somebody that they know, and they're getting into a different part of the brain. Our speech, our handwriting sort of processing, it's in a different part of the brain than our image processing. And think about it, a million years ago, there was no writing. We weren't writing down a list of people that we wanted to have join the tribe. And people could look at someone's name and recognize who they were. They saw people's faces, and our brain uses a different part of our, brain when we're looking at faces than we do at other things. So using the images hijacks that brain to start to think about people differently, and it creates that connection to people, to their experience with people, which is where we want them to be. Now, I've done this hundreds of times myself. I've coached hundreds of people on it. And there's really sort of 3 or 4 discussions that happen. Janelle says, yeah, sure. But then the first thing she says is, Priya, I don't know her at all. I know she's in the department, but I don't know her at all. And what I suggest you say to that, because you should expect it, is fine. Let's not worry about Priya. We'll just take her off the list. Take her off the list. You don't want distractions. And then she might say, well, Sarah, we were sort of in the same class together. She seems really nice. I know that she, got married recently. I think they're having a baby. I sort of know her. So one of the things we're taught in sales is not to ask questions when we're not sure what the answer is going to be. And a lot of times when we go into an introduction meeting, we're asking questions. Who do you know? Before we know what the answer is going to be. Through this process of getting the person sort of comfortable, changing their brain over to think about people opposed to their list of tasks to do today, you start to get some answers. So we know the first person, she didn't know at all. Good, let's get rid of her. Sarah, I'm saying she knows her, but she's not that well connected to her. So my ask is going to be different now. I'm going to say, well, okay, would you mind if I sent Sarah an email and introduced myself? I'll contact her and tell her about what I do. And, would it be okay if I said that we work together? That's a pretty low ask. People are, generally going to be okay with that. Again, we're in this conversation. We're multiple minutes in, 5-10 minutes in. I haven't asked the contact for an introduction. I haven't asked them for a name. I haven't asked them to do anything. So I'm going to say, okay, look, I'll contact her. And then she goes, well, Lindsay and I, we were in the same class. We had all the same courses together. We're really good friends. In fact, her husband and I, and my husband, we go out, probably once a quarter for dinner. I really like her. She's really been a good friend. So now I know something better because she started to talk about this. I didn't ask her about Lindsay. She started to talk about Lindsay. I know that she knows her really well. And I can think about asking or increasing my ask. And I might say, would you be comfortable, introducing me to Lindsay? I'll be in the hospital next week, not this quarter, or send an email and introduce her. And then maybe I can see if I can help her with the kinds of things that I've helped you. And she goes, yeah, that's sure, we'll do that, right? So through this process, right, we've got lots of pictures of people that she's going to know. These are all people that she works with at her place of employment, right? She's going to know most of these people. What happens is that the pictures allow her to get relaxed. I'm not asking her to do any work. she's starting to engage, and then the real breakthrough happens. And pretty much everyone that I've taught this to comes back and tells me, they say, you know what, this is great, but you know who's not on this list is Tony Smith. Tony Smith is a great guy, and we were just talking about this the other day. You really need to meet Tony Smith. In the end, it almost doesn't matter who's on this list, because what happens is that they pretty quickly are now switched over to a different process in their brain, and they can start to think about people that they know, and you've given them the time and space to do that without any pressure. And the people that they were thinking about introducing you to now come to the forefront, and they start to come up with those names and give you those names. This is, you know, this is so powerful that people call me and they say, Frank, I can't believe what happened here. I just did this. I walked away with 20 introductions. And there's a warning note there, right? People will say, when you're doing this, people get endorphins that makes them feel good. And when they feel good, they start to overcommit. And there's a little bit of a danger there, right? They'll say, yeah, I'll contact these 20 people. This is great, you know, happy to do it. And they walk away and they get home at the end of the day and they're like, oh man, I got to send 20 emails out to all these people. What am I going to say to them? What am I going to do? And they now, the endorphins have worn off. And in the moment, it was one thing, but now that there's a burden for them to do, it becomes something different. It's not as much fun. So what I would suggest, if you ever use this technique, that you only ask them to contact 2 or 3, maybe 4 people, just people that are, they're really sort of passionate about, and then take them off the hook and say to them, you know what, these other people, why don't I just contact them? I'll send them an email. If it's all right, I'll use your name and I'll pursue with them and see if they're interested in what we do. So I think I'm going to have to stop. That's 2/3 of what we talked about, right? The next third is how do you get them to make those introductions, which I'm happy to talk about. You can email me. I'm happy to help you. There you go.
Thank you, Frank. That was terrific. We are running a little long, but if anybody has any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat screen. Frank, is there a name for this system? Or, I mean, you've been using it for a long time, but is this a formal packaged materials of this that someone can use, or?
People, I have some tools. People can email me and I can explain the tools. That'd be happy to do. I think that there's, you know, the workshop I've done is really focused in on this process and the scripts and the strategy. And then there's some tools that you can use, right? I use LinkedIn. Some people use LinkedIn. There's some other tools I use to sort of create those websites or PDFs to bring those visuals into play. But send me an email. I'm happy to you know, expose those, pass those things on.
Gonzalo actually has a question. What was the software that you were using when you were showing the pictures and the check boxes?
So it's a proprietary software that's sort of specially designed for our industry. It's called Sales Lead Multiplier. I would say it's not highly marketed. It's really sort of, you know, from my understanding, you know, word of mouth type selling, and it's mainly focused in on the process of managing the prospecting that we have to do in this industry.
And how long have you been using this this process for getting referrals?
So I started developing this maybe 7 years ago or 8 years ago. I integrated it into some coaching that I was doing with folks in this agency, and that's really what drove these 100, you know, these, after about 19, 18, 20 months of using this, there were, you know, a couple of people in this group that became 100 life producers at this agency, and they hadn't had 100 life producers in 40 years, right? It really changes your referral your introduction backlog from being a desert into, having abundance. And that can really change your perspective of what you do and how you do it in terms of who you're going to meet, when you're going to meet them, how you're going to meet them.
Thank you. I do not see any additional questions. That was great, Frank. So I am going to wrap this up. Frank, in your presentation, it's all about the ask. So now I have an ask of everybody that has participated in the session. I need to ask everybody to vote. So once again, I'm going to thank all of the finalists. The presentations and the presenters were the following: Bobby Trottenberg, How to Ask for Referrals; David Appel, Marketing in the Time of COVID-19; Kim Nadovitz, Insurance Reviews with LTC Policies; Steve Thaler, Key Person Life Insurance and the Rewrite; and Frank Westerhoff, Be Brilliant at Getting Introductions. Please remember to fill out your surveys and vote for your top sales idea. The surveys will be emailed to you sometime this afternoon. And again, we will announce the winners tomorrow in our last and final session with Bill Binen, who will be discussing new planning opportunities available in this changing economic, political, and legislative landscape. We hope that we have left you with some terrific ideas that you can implement into your practice. Again, thank you for the finalists. Thank everybody for your participation. Remember to vote, and we hope that you will all join us tomorrow. And of course, if Agency One can be of any assistance, please reach out to us. Thank you, everyone, and we hope to see you all tomorrow. That concludes this session. And vote. Thank you, guys.